remain standing for a moment of silent prayer and meditation. Please be seated. Thank you very much, honorable members and our guests. The secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 12, Statistics South Africa Appropriation Bill.
The honorable minister, take the platform.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Ministers, Deputy Ministers, honorable members, the honorable hello. It's still there. How are you, honorable members? Is it fine? Yes. Okay, okay. The honorable chairperson, ministers, deputy ministers, honorable members, the honorable acting chairperson of the portfolio committee, members of the portfolio committee, the deputy chairperson of the Statistics Council, the Statistician General, Mr. Rasenga Malulega, the Secretary of the NPC, Mr. Tsitizo Matuna, the Director General of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Ms. Mpumi Mpofu, the Commissioners of the NPC, the distinguished guests in the gallery, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very humbled to deliver this budget vote at the time when we are celebrating the centenary of one of our best stalwarts. It is also a centenary of the Bantu Women's League, precursor of the Women's League. And of course, we know that that organization of the Women's League has produced many heroes, heroines that I'm going to talk about later. But it also undertook campaigns that became national campaigns like the anti-pass law and many others. But I just want to say it's worth noting that despite the contribution of these women in the liberation struggle, they sometimes get edited out of history. Honorable members, this year is also the centenary of Mamo Albertina Sisulu. Mamo Albertina Sisulu and Dada Nelson Mandela. Mamo Albertina Sisulu's contribution to humanity is invaluable. And we will also remember that she was a member of this house, of the National Assembly, the first parliament. And she was a very disciplined member of that parliament. She served in the Portfolio Committee for Health, and it was a great pleasure to work with her. We learned a lot, but we also learned a lot in her leadership in the struggle and in her commitment to the women's emancipation. Secondly, we also want to pay tribute to another courageous stalwart, uNomzamo Winfred Madikizela Mandela. We will always remember her as a tireless fighter who was persecuted, banished, and yet through it all, never cowed. She remained strong in the struggle and in the rights for her people. Her contribution will forever be etched in our history. We also remember Minister Zola Square, who introduced in the civil servants the concept of Ubuntu among civil servants. And last but not least, it is the centenary of Utata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela, the first president of the Republic, the Democratic Republic. And just to echo the President Ramaphosa's sentiment as expressed in the State of the Nation, and he said, I quote, "We have dedicated this year in his memory. We will devote our every action, every effort, and every utterance to the realization of his vision of a democratic, just, and equitable society." It is important that as a nation, we derive inspiration from all this rich legacy and from the heroines of our struggle, and so that we can be inspired by them and carry on where they left off. Honorable members, before I delve into the body of the debate, let me acknowledge my predecessor, Honorable Jeff Radebe, who has been overseeing State South Africa over the past years. And I take the baton from his capable hands and will continue building on the foundation that he left. I wish to take this opportunity also to recognize the recently appointed Statistician General, Rasenga Maluleka. As I do so, I wish to underline my personal belief that there is an inextricable relationship between building a better life for all South Africans and the urgent need to accurate and credible information. It is thus imperative that we reflect seriously on this matter of credible and accurate information and find ways to support Statistics South Africa in order to ensure that its work remains relevant. But even more than that, we need to talk about how we as policymakers and implementers utilize the data that they produce. It is very important to remember that citizens must also know their country and understand the dynamics so that their decisions as well are informed. An informed citizenry is the foundation of a true democracy. Honorable members, why does statistics matter? In simple terms, it is the evidence on which policies, decisions, and planning is done. Without good statistics, the policy development, planning, and decision-making process is a blind one. We cannot learn from our mistakes, and the public cannot hold us accountable. Statistics help us to understand and learn from the past, make sense of the present, and make inferences into the future. So we need an evidence-based approach in planning, in decision-making. And of course, this has been gathering momentum over the years, not only in South Africa, but on the continent and in the world, because it improves the efficiency and effectiveness of making decisions, making policies, and focusing on what works. It can also reduce government expenditure, which may otherwise be directed to ineffective policies or programs which could be costly, time-consuming, but have no impact. So statistics help us. Evidence-based approach ensures that the decision-making is consistent with the democratic and political processes which are characterized by transparency and accountability. Evidence-based approach highlights the current problem which forms the basis of long-term planning for better outcomes. So, honorable members, official statistics the world over are driven by the United Nations fundamental principles of official statistics, and in Africa, by the African Charter on Statistics. Our nation prides itself on the Statistics Act that guarantees confidentiality at all times. The methods through which our national statistics are collected, processed, and analyzed remain independent from any undue influence. Stats South Africa is ranked amongst the best in the world when it comes to the progressive framework for statistics, good practice, and transparency. Of course, honorable members, our National Development Plan still remains the beacon of hope to our country and to our people. It points to matters that need urgent attention at national and sub-national levels. Furthermore, it remains a link for our development as a nation with Africa and the world. At a continental level, Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, is our rallying point. The global post-2015 development as encapsulated in the Sustainable Development Goals. Statistics, honorable members, anchor us as we wade through the seas of unknown territories. As we attend to national and continental challenges, and indeed those of the world, we should ensure that the numbers do not become abstract to an extent that whatever they illuminate becomes meaningless. Measurements and facts should always relate to human life, as well as whatever successes they record or challenges they face. Empirical evidence continue to tell us that Black Africans and coloreds face many challenges in our country. The NDP reminds us that we should track the lower bound poverty line in our fight against the triple scourge of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. While poverty has declined between 2006 and 2011 from 51% to 36.4%, it has slightly risen to 40% in 2015. But more shocking is the South African Gini coefficient, which is the most commonly used measurement for inequality. At 0.67 is amongst the worst in the world. Our wealth inequality index is 0.9, making us one of the most skewed societies in the world. Women in general, and Black rural women in particular, are affected the most by poverty. It is encouraging that the multidimensional poverty index, which is an index of access to services and goods, continues to decline, largely as a result of the intervention that our government has made since '94. The MPI has declined from about 18% in 2001 to 7% in 2015. Of course, we know that more than 17 million people are on grants, and 20,000 schools have been declared fee-free schools. Honorable members, young people are most affected by unemployment. About 30% of young people aged between 15 and 24 years are neither in employment nor in education and training. Last year, the African Union adopted the demographic dividend through investing in youth as a running theme. The demographic dividend occurs when there is a potential for economic growth that is driven by positive shifts in the age distribution of the population. The demographic dividend is only possible if you make the prerequisite investments in youth, especially in education and health. Unfortunately, statistics show us that in the first 20 years of democracy, we have missed the first wave of the demographic dividend. We have to work a lot more, and so that we ensure that we achieve a better life for all, especially for youth and women. Any nation may benefit from the demographic dividend if it registers an increase in the proportion of the working age whilst registering a decline in the dependency ratio. When a demographic dividend is realized, it propels economic growth. We know that our youth remain a motive force to benefit from the economic development, but also to drive it and ensure that the African continent can compete equally with other regions of the world. Credible statistics can therefore not be separated from the total emancipation of our people, for they should continue to guide us, and we make progress, or whether we make progress or otherwise, in the search for a better life for humanity. Honorable members, let me look internally into Stats SA. The organization will be focusing on the following key priorities to fulfill its mandate. Maintaining basic statistics, institutionalizing the integrated indicator framework, integrating, innovating, and modernizing statistics value chain, transformation and organizational reform, planning for Census 2021, and driving legislative reform. Maintaining basic statistics. Basic statistics form the foundation of any national statistics system. Over the past 10 years, the organization has invested a lot of time and effort in raising the quality and proficiency of economic and social statistics. Stats South SA produces more than 250 publications and reports each year, covering various aspects of the South African economy, society, and environment. The information is critical to informing government, business, investors, workers, and the public on the state of the economy to facilitate informed decision-making. A key project that Stats SA will undertake relates to measuring the economic value of environmental resources. A joint project between Stats SA and the South African National Biodiversity Institute. The project forms part of the international pilot program involving the United Nations, the European Union, Brazil, China, India, and Mexico to develop appropriate valuation methods. Members, honorable members, an integrated indicator framework has been developed that aligns policy agendas at global, continental, and national levels. The NDP, the MTSF, the PGDP, the IDPs, as the basis of what needs to be measured in the national statistics system. These indicators will provide a clear basis for understanding the problem statement to be addressed in planning, as well as monitoring progress and evaluating the results, and will form the bedrock of the information contained in the central repository that DPNME and Stats SA are planning to develop. Honorable members, the world is on the threshold of the fourth revolution, industrial revolution, which demands that we think differently about the future and the way we have been doing things. To answer these demands, Stats SA is in the process of transforming the collection of data from a paper-based approach to a digital collection. To ensure that quality is not compromised, this is being done in a phased-in over time. During 2018-19, Stats South Africa will be rolling out the digital data collection solution for all household surveys, which will generate efficiency savings over the medium term. The digitalization of work methods will enable the organization to deliver faster, smarter, and more cost-effectively. And then the big program is going to be planning for the census 2021. Conducting a population census is the biggest statistical survey any country and National Statistic Agency can undertake. Planning for South Africa's next population census, which is scheduled for 2021, will commence this year, 2018-2019. Census 2021 will be the first of its kind in South Africa to be conducted using electronic data collection methodology. Computer-assisted personnel interviews. This will improve the quality of data collection, reduce the time lag between the data collection and the dissemination of results. In relation to legislative reform, Stats South Africa will be delivering an amendment Statistic Act that will drive statistical reform in the country, with particular emphasis on statistical coordination, statistical geography, the data revolution, a statewide statistical evidence and institutional arrangements. Coordination between organs of state is essential for consistency and efficiency in the statistical system. The Statistics Act provides for the Statistician General to participate in international statistical activities and build relations with international statistics agencies and players. South Africa continues to contribute to the continental integration agenda and to the improvement of the African statistics system based on the African Charter on Statistics and the strategy for harmonization of statistics in Africa. In addition, Stats South Africa is in the forefront of initiatives aimed at shaping the future of statistics in response to global post-2014 development agenda. Africa Agenda 2063, Data Revolution. Stats South Africa does this by providing statistical leadership and technical support.
Please conclude, Honorable Minister.
I beg your pardon?
Please conclude.
Okay, I'm about to. Honorable members, we recognize the importance of fully funding the statistical functions. So we are currently engaging with Treasury, but what we would like this House is to support the budget. And I could not find a more appropriate way of concluding this budget vote speech than to reflect on Ben Okri, who says, We have not yet arrived, but every point at which we stop requires a redefinition of our destination. I would like to thank the Portfolio Committee, its chair, honorable members, and all the members of the department and State South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Lesom.
Masisibongele sihlala walendlu hloniphekileyo. Sibingelele kumzansi wonkana. Sibingelele ungqongqoshe uDokotela uNkosazana Dlamini Zuma nethimba lakhe lasehofisini. Siphinde sibingelele amalunga alendlu ahloniphekileyo ngokuphelele. Sibingelele nomndeni olidwa ubaba umphahlele engizwile ukuthi akekho namhlanje kodwa siyabingelela kwisekela lakhe ongusihlalo we-State SA Commission. Bese siphinda sibingelela uStatistician General umnumzane uMaluleka sibe nethimba lakhe ngokunjalo Statistician General. Manene namanenekazi sinibingelela kunyaka obalulekile ikakhulukazi kule nhlangano ebusayo kepha kusizwe sizonkana okunyaka ka-President former President Nelson Mandela nomama Albertina Sisulu asethe ukunaba ngabanzi ungqongqoshe ngabo. Ngifisa ukudlula sihlalo ungivumele ngisho ngithi ngesiqubulo esithi statistics is the backdrop of democracy. Best respected trusted tools to measure government's performance is to use good stats from a reliable source which is authorized to provide official stats in the country. Scientific sound, internationally recognized methodologies for collection and processing, storage and presentation of statistical data on a wide range of economic, social and population statistics. In return, it gives guidance in the policy formulation of suitable policies options that the country should take. I am standing before you, honorable members and colleagues and invited guests, on behalf of the Portfolio Committee of Stats SA, DPME, States and DPSA. The committee, or let me put it this way, that I will focus mainly at the observations that the committee made and also the recommendations. We have considered the 2018-2019 annual performance of Stats SA, as well as looking at the incoming year, which is 2018-19 budget as well, which amounts to, let me just quickly go to the amount so that I can be accurate. Okay, I'll come back to the amount. No, I will come later. Let me deal with this issue. The committee note, no, I will come to it later. I know why. Yeah, just hold your horses. The committee noted Stats SA has discontinued certain projects, honorable members. But the reason we are quite alive that we are not supposed to also to champion budget requests for the department. They must do their own lobbying. However, in our process of doing our oversight role, honorable chair and honorable members and the minister, we felt that we must emphasize the point that in your quest and engagement with the treasury, you must ensure that they do also appreciate the importance and added responsibilities that have been given to the Stats SA, such as the one that was given to the IEC but sponsored then to Stats SA in terms of the addresses or individual household addresses, which then does need some resources of some form. The Portfolio Committee, Honorable Chairperson, have been allocated 2.2 billion for the year in question. Allow me, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, to put more emphasis on the Stats SA South Africa report, mainly on the observations and recommendations, as I said earlier on, that we made as the Portfolio Committee for Budget Vote 12. The committee considered and welcomed the annual report, performance plan of 2018-19 Stats SA. The committee further noted that Stats SA has discontinued some of the projects, which I've just outlined earlier on. Stats SA we further encouraged the Stats SA that instead of them to say that they are going to discontinue some of the projects and activities, rather use the little that they have to ensure that their core mandate is achieved. And I'm happy to say that there was a sense of comfort that they will do their level best in that space to ensure that such poverty estimates and completely the other projects that are very crucial for the country and the nation at large are implemented. In terms of the legislative reforms, we spoke to this one and noted basically on the reason that Stats SA in terms of what is expected, noting that the country in few years we adopted the NDP, and Stats SA must respond to the NDP's requirements and expectations, as it were. So there should be legislative reforms that they need to take, Honorable Minister, through your good the chairperson, that we have said that the progress thus far in terms of the intention to amend the Stats SA Act should be speed up. Noting that we are about going for the elections, if you don't deal with that space, I'm not too sure whether we'll be able to accommodate that. But we raise a concern and an observation that it should be dealt with accordingly. But further, to ensure that the coordination between organs of state for the purpose of enhancing efficiency and the statistical system, Stats SA must also review its definition within the Act, because they are very outdated, some of the definitions that doesn't talk to the current dispensation expectations. We further noted that over 104 staff members had left Stats SA in 2017-18 financial year, which is total to 170 vacancies. The reason at main is the aging of the workforce that they have, not necessarily because they were not feeling comfortable to work for the government or Stats SA. But when then the vacancies open, then they have to refill those vacancies, then by default also below also their vacancies. Hence then there are those 170 vacancies that are just outlined. But most importantly, Stats SA by its nature, it deals with it's a highly specialized technical space that needs also equally skilled people who would have been retrained readily to occupy those spaces, or the country in terms of the skills that it has at its disposal, they are readily going to see the test of the interviews and the processes to fill up those vacancies. And I'm sure that in that space that the higher education and basic education also, we will try to engage them to ensure that they speak on that space in terms of prioritizing the technical skills, which then will seek to, in future, to compensate the shortfall of which has been resulted by 170 vacancies it's a work in progress. The committee further noted, Honorable House Chair, that Stats SA has senior positions in an acting capacity, who in return, as I said earlier on, that then creates, which also we applaud, that and encourage the mobility, the high mobility that should take place in senior positions. However, it also put a burden on overload of work to those individuals. We are a caring South Africa, we are a caring government, so we felt as a committee we must speak to that, so that also the work skills plan of Stats SA must talk to that in terms of ensuring that the performance of those individuals is not compromised. The committee further raised a concern and noted that about the risk of losing competent staff to other sectors as well. Does it impact on ability to conduct surveys, and resulted compromise the department will derive in a long term to rebuild such capacity, which is only cannot be realized in this year, it can be realized in 2 years to come. We are raising that the department must work on that one to ensure that it does that 2 years that we will realize that challenge or shortfall. Of course, we said that also very mindful of the constraints, resources, as it were. The committee urged SA that it gradually move away from manual data that the minister has spoken to in the collection to more advanced electronic data collection that is affordable, quicker, and faster without also compromising the quality aspect on the statistical data. During the transition of the manual data collective to computer-assisted personal interview, we have encouraged to reskill and retrain on electronic data collection so that there's a smooth transition which is going to be overlapping. Taking note lessons that has been learned from KZN, from KwaZulu-Natal province on citizen satisfactory survey that was conducted using technology to collect data. So there is a template and the lessons that can be taken from that. We further noted that, and we made an emphasis on the space, that the importance of the role of statistical releases in influencing decision-making, in government planning, in prioritizing and allocation of resources is critical. It is therefore the role and the responsibility of the Department of Monitoring and Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation to ensure that Stats SA information find its expression in policy decision-making of government priorities and align such data in a long term and a short term, as it were, in its planning. Honorable House Chairperson, the committee further made the following recommendations now, which are very precise. Then we agreed that we are going to monitor on a quarterly basis. Stats SA should speed up the amendment of the Statistics Act of 1999 to drive statistical reform in order to reform infrastructure planning. The amendments will also assist and firmly respond to the evolving environment, the data revolution, and state-wide statistical service and institutional arrangement. The amendments, the perceived or the mooted amendment should also enable the country to respond to the United Nations Sustainable Goals, the Africa Agenda 2063, and the National Development Plan, as it were.
Please conclude, Honourable Member.
We further, Chairperson, wants to conclude to say that the very important one, that the Stats SA should intensify the efforts to plan for the census for 2021, as the Minister has alluded to that, but also talking to the skills, technical skills that is needed to achieve that exercise. The National Treasurer, working with the Department of Planning and DPME, should ensure that Stats SA is accordingly provided with the resources that it needs. In conclusion, Chairperson,
to the 2.49 billion rand budgeted in the 2016-2017 financial year. These budget cuts have particularly compromised the ability of Stats SA to fill, attract, and retain necessary skills. Its staff complement has been reduced, with a significant decrease of funded posts in the current financial year. Whilst it should have access to the best skills in the market to embody a modern cutting-edge utility, vacancies stopped being filled from October 2016. 170 staff have left, and the vacancy rate has increased to 13%. More worrying, Honourable Chairperson, is that this situation will continue to decline for the foreseeable future under current government priorities, with Cabinet-approved reductions of 15.1 million rand for the 2019-2020 financial year and 15.9 million rand for the 2020-2021 financial year. The consequence being that staff are overstretched and are more prone to errors. There is a decline in skills base, with Stats SA not in a position to fill critical vacancies, and basic statistics are at risk with a decline in quality over time. Some of the key indicators at risk include the following: the GDP, gross domestic product, poverty and service delivery, the CPI, the consumer price index, fertility and mortality, employment and population estimates. The risks to the population estimates alone will have significant consequences to the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. Honourable Chairperson, it thus becomes incumbent on us to ask why this important institution would be put in such a perilous position going forward, given its importance to the nation and to the work of government. Last year, in this very debate, I spoke of the need for government to make use of evidence-based policy making in realizing the goals set out in the National Development Plan. In simple terms, evidence-based policy making is a means by which policies and programs intended to improve lives are based on clearly defined, time-bound and measurable milestones. This allows timely modification, consolidation, or change of policy as the case may require, thus ensuring urgent responses to challenges. It is in this context that statistics become part and parcel of evidence-based policy making. Stats understood here to mean more than a routine collection and storage of numbers, but rather as credible and scientifically derived evidence intended to evaluate the impact of policy making. Our statistics will remain meaningless and perhaps not that important until and unless they are embedded in the key priorities of government and become part of planning tools used by the three spheres of government in directing resources and informing the amendment of efforts towards achieving the goals set out by the NDP in the manner prescribed by the NDP. The lives of our people will not improve, Chairperson, when faced with a government that in practice, in act, and in funding does not recognize the importance of a strong, well-funded and resourced utility that will produce accurate statistics and the value of its use in its everyday work. A DA government would do so differently. We would cherish this institution and utilize the valuable information produced to bring total change to all the people of South Africa. No, you can heckle now, it's fine. But this is the reality. This is the reality, Chairperson. We will use it to combat inequality, make our communities safer, skill our youth, bring in investment and create jobs, combat illegal immigration, confront apartheid spatial planning, and improve the health services of government. This is not currently happening. And if we continue down this road that we are going, if we are putting this institution that has performed so well for so many years of this democratic era into such peril, then I promise you, Chairperson, future generations will live to regret the decisions we make here.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Nhlangwini.
Thank you very much, Chair. Today's budget vote I want to dedicate to the late Mama Winnie Mandela, with one of her quotes where she says, "There is no longer anything I can fear. There's nothing that the government haven't done to me. There isn't any pain I haven't known. Rest assured, Mama, the EFF will keep your memory always alive." This is one of the few budget votes that the EFF supports, and we support this vote. Stats SA have always remained independent and partisan, staying clear of political interference. It have always met its targets, used budgets correctly, and has seen little or no irregular, wasteful, and fruitless expenditure. For this leadership of Stats SA, as well as the staff, we must give credit where credit is due. And we want to congratulate the Statistician General and Head of Stats, Mr. Maluleka, on the good work they are doing. Now, some few concerns for the EFF that we are worried about. We are disturbed by the stats budget that is shrinking. In 2018-2019 financial year, Stats A will receive 200 million rand less than it did in 2016-2017 financial year. How it's meant to keep up the good work and also increase its data collection and analysis when we are having a growing population and there is an increase and need for credible data, which is vital in the financial or the information age we live in today. Budget cuts will lead to skills, employees, and overall capacity being lost, and will negatively impact the quality and quantity of information data Stats SA can produce. Data we will need when the EFF needs to expropriate the land. We'll need it to know who and how we're going to allocate and redistribute the land. Data we need to determine how many schools, toilets we need. Data we need to determine how many nurses is still required to provide our people with quality healthcare, Mama, quality healthcare. Data is needed so that we know how many houses our people in South Africa currently need. Stats SA also needs a large budget so that information it has more accessible to ordinary South Africans. It must be easily accessible to students and school and institutions of higher learning so that we know that all of the information are credible. So future generations have the proper and credible information that they will need in future. It's not for, maybe perhaps your kids or grandchildren are not in university right now because of your age, but our kids still need credible information. It must be easily available in areas and in all languages so that we can access it in all languages in South Africa. It mustn't be not only in English that we can access data in English. All languages must be accessible. That's why we support this budget vote, because of the importance in it. And we'll be wanting an increase in the budget. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Buthelezi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. We live in a very digital world where information is constantly changing the face of the world. Many industries use data for their core function. Stats SA is very useful in this regard. It serves as an official stats hub, and it's through the work of this institution that the information which they collate into commendable reports is used to conduct business in our country. The work of Stats SA is incredibly important as it's the custodian of all raw data and analyses which inform the very work that we do as members of parliament. The census is definitely important. Our whole representative democracy is based on it. It ensures that each community gets the right number of representatives in government, because representation is based on population, and therefore an up-to-date tally is crucial. Accuracy being of the utmost importance in this regard for effective governance. Honorable Chairperson, states also help with the adequate distribution of public funds, including educational programs, healthcare, law enforcement, etc. It's therefore particularly important that the department makes considerable effort to ensure that they improve in accurately capturing and producing population and social states in rural and underdeveloped areas, so as to inform the departments of the depth and breadth of poverty-stricken people in order to facilitate better service delivery. Evidence-based policy making remains key to the country's success. However, what is key are the stats consulted. One can find stats to support almost any argument. Key would be to know which one to consult and formulate government policy around, as we do live in an era of quote-unquote fake news. The last census conducted in 2011 was a great success, and we trust that the department and the teachers are busy with their forward planning for the next census in 2021. We look forward to hear from the minister in this regard. Honourable Chairperson, as the minister said here while she was delivering her speech, that she asked this House to adopt this budget. The IFP wishes to place on record that we do not oppose. Thank you.
Honorable Ntombela.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, the Honorable Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, honorable members, Chairperson and Statistician General for the Statistics South Africa, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor to once again this august House to debate of Statistics South Africa for the financial year 2018 and 19. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate the reporting alignment made thus far by government for ensuring Statistics South Africa and the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation report to the same ministry. Evidence-based development requires well-coordinated statistical information and data that serves planning, monitoring, and evaluation. In October of 2017, the committee was officially informed about the retirement of the former Statistician General, Dr. Padile Hohla, who served the organization with distinction during his tenure. Allow me, Chair, to take this opportunity to say to the former Statistician General, we will always miss your contributions and your passion every time when presenting statistical releases with your yellow suit. Let me say to Dr. Hohla, now you have no excuse, sir, for not having enough time to posting selfies with your grandkids. Congratulations on your retirement, sir. As it has been said before, Honorable Chairperson, official statistics are the bedrock for socio-economic policy formulation and decision-making. It plays a critical role in illuminating policy choices and program design, monitoring policy and program implementation, as well as evaluating the impact of such policies. Evidence-based policymaking enhances transparency and accountability in the policymaking environment. It is very critical for citizens to know why and how decisions that affect their lives are taken. Knowledge of such processes is important for good governance, and in that they provide a basis for equity and efficiency, especially in the emerging democracies that are building from fledgling institutions like ours. That gives the mileage of credibility. Furthermore, accountability requires credible data, which should be freely available and presented openly. The availability of information makes it easier for citizens to monitor the performance of those in public office. Statistics, official or otherwise, that is, guarantee independence from political interference, thus giving credence to the policy-making processes in pursuit of our democracy. Herbert George Wells, a renowned English novelist, said, I quote, "Statistical thinking will one day be as necessary for efficient citizenship as the ability to read and write," unquote. For most of us, that day has finally arrived, based on the factual evidence achieved through data collection. The late President Mandela said during the launch of Census 1996, quote unquote, "Now that we know how many of us are in the country and the challenges we face, we can advance our democracy and achieve a better life for all through the commitments we have made. The success of the attainment of the objectives of the National Development Plan depends solely on the credible and timelessly collected statistical data to inform the planning policies and budget allocations. We therefore would like to acknowledge that that government is effectively and efficiently the main user of statistics in its planning. The value of the stats South Africa is also recognized by the private sector because they also rely on official standard the demand for this information. Now, stats in the public domain must be of high quality, thus responding to the increased demand for high quality information. On the issue of legislation, Chair, our understanding is that we all know that laws are not carved in stone, as they sometimes flow in and out with the tide. They sometimes need to be changed and enhanced for the public good. It is in that regard we have the Statistical Act of 1999, which is in the process of amendment, I suppose, as the Minister has already alluded to it. Good policies, Honorable Chair, are impossible without good, reliable, quality, and accurate data. If we are to lift our children out of poverty, we must first understand the causal factors. If we are to provide quality education in the public schools, we must have a baseline information in terms of the demand, understand the kind of education provided, and indicate what kind of interventions learners need. Integrating statistical concept and reason for elementary years through to the secondary school should develop a nation of critical thinkers and capable consumers of information that would ultimately benefit social progress. To teach our school kids to understand effective use of statistical information, teachers need to teach these concepts, the statistical concepts, and understand their importance. It is therefore fundamental that teachers are skilled readers and interpreters of such concepts, especially those who teach mathematics, science and geography, etc. So the development of pedagogy to support the teaching of statistics is fundamental to the successful implementation of relevant streams in the school curriculum. Government has invested more on the Statistics South Africa to provide the country with statistic information to improve living conditions of the citizens, and we still have to do more. For example, they have reported that South Africa's formal non-agricultural sector added 81,000 jobs in the fourth quarter of 2017, bringing the total number of persons employed in the formal non-agricultural sector to 9.8 million. So the quarterly employment statistics survey also showed that formal sector jobs rose by 18,000. Imperatively, Comrade Chair, State South Africa should continuously provide the country with reliable statistical data to enable planners, policy decision makers, and legislators with the information that will enhance and strengthen our socio-economic development. State South Africa keeps everyone alive with day-to-day realities in terms of both opportunities and challenges confronting our societies. A nation that is not statistically informed is bound to fail in delivering better life for all. Hence the slogan, the South Africa I know, the home I understand. Honorable Chair, we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, the way we work, and how we relate to each other. Developing countries had successfully surpassed this period. Now, a fourth industrial revolution is building on the third one. So the digital revolution that has been occurring since the middle of the last century. The former speaker have already alluded to that. The resolution of the 54th ANC National Conference enjoins us, therefore, as an anchor to our National Development Plan on the fourth industrial revolution. We have noted the completion of the citizen satisfaction survey piloted in the KwaZulu-Natal, Comrade Minor, and that is welcome. Honorable Chairperson, we have a full understanding and insight into the budget constraints across the public service. We will appeal to the Minister of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation and the National Treasury to ensure that State South Africa is provided with adequate funding to commence with the preparations for the coming 2021 census. Without allocating sufficient resources to State South Africa, we'll be depriving ourselves an opportunity to understand the real situation in which we find ourselves. With this, Chairperson, let me take this final opportunity to thank the leadership of State South Africa under the stewardship of Minister of Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation, Umama Nkosazana Zuma, the Chairperson of the Statistical Council, Tatem Patlele, and the SG General, Obab Maluleke, and the entire State South Africa team in doing a great work for the country through production of credible statistics. Further, thank members of the Portfolio Committee in conducting effective oversight over Statistics South Africa and ensure that the department provides the country with reliable and accurate data. Of course, members of committee cannot operate alone. Our appreciation goes to the staff, parliamentary staff in this regard. The African National Congress supports budget vote 12 of the Statistics South Africa with the amount that has been allocated. We support the budget, Amanda.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Ntombela will proceed to the PAC. They are not here. Let's proceed then to the APC. Not here. We'll then proceed to Honorable S. Mutau from the TA.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Indeed, if it were possible, we would take their minutes too, right? Well, fortunately, the job I have to do this afternoon is very easy. And in fact, the Minister has anticipated some of the issues I'm going to raise, and you've actually answered them. But before I get into the meat, probably 10 years ago, the Minister and I crossed paths. I don't know if she remembers, we were debating in the run-up to the 2009 elections, so we ran up again in the run-up to the 2016 or 2021 or 2019 election. But welcome, Minister, to the House and stuff like that. Start by joining all my colleagues by saying that the Democratic Alliance would like to applaud the former Statistician General, Dr. Paddy Lehotla, for the praiseworthy job he has done over the years as Statistics South Africa. We also wish him the best with his new endeavors. Furthermore, we would like to welcome Mr. Risenga Maluleke, the new SG, and wish him success in his high posting to this very important institution. It is worth reminding ourselves that Statistics South Africa has worked very, very hard over many years to earn local and international respect and recognition as a reputable institution. This reputation must be jealously guarded by all of us, and it sounds like we're doing that here. As such, Stats SA must always be free from any political interference in the production and dissemination of official statistics. While we welcome the commitment of Mr. Maluleke and his team to collective leadership responsibility to enhance high-quality performance of the institution as they inform the committee, we would like to caution that this should not stand in the way of individual accountability where this is necessary, especially when the chips are down. And as I go into the budget itself, and because of what the Minister has said, let me go right at the end of my speech to conclude and then substantiate why I concluded that way. Accurate, credible data enhance precise planning and costing, and reduce wastage of resources. For this reason alone, Stats SA should be provided with adequate tools, financial, systems modernization, and digital migration to ply its trade successfully. And Minister, you have indicated that some of these things will be done. And as I flesh out, you will see why I would like to emphasize that. The department has a budget of 2.2 billion, as we have been told, increasing to 3.3 by 2020-21. While this may appear to be significant, the department has some serious budget constraints that have serious negative consequences on staffing and staff morale. We have been told about there were 104 people and there are 170 people, and we have a vacancy rate of 13.8%. That, of course, we all know shouldn't be the case. Here's the number. The department has a staff complement of 1,352 in 2017-18 compared to 1,408 staff members in 2016-17. Again, a decrease. Consequently, what the institution has tagged as abuse of sick leave, and that's where you come in, Minister, with the other people, continues to plague the department. Abuse of sick leave has a serious negative impact on performance. The committee noted with deep concern that 13,423 days were lost to sick leave at a cost of 35.7 million rand during 2016-17 financial year. The deep concern for Stats SA is the staff members who leave the department are mostly specialists and technically skilled people who should be retained. An adequate budget for compensation of employees should remedy this problem. However, due to what we have been told about inability to fill these vacancies since 2016, the problems persist. In fact, the projected overspending on compensation of employees before VMNs is expected to be, and I quote the numbers that were given in the report, 146 million rand for 2018-19, 181 million rand for 2019-20, and 194 million rand for 2020-21. That is assuming that there are no changes in the MTEF period. The DA recognizes that economic times are tough and that there should be serious belt tightening, but we would like to caution that the government should not be penny-wise and pound-foolish when it comes to Statistics SA. A major risk to the department is that budget cuts can lead to decline in the quality of performance due to staff shortages, as we have heard. Another significant risk is that which concerns Census 2021, and I'm glad, Minister, you have referred to that as well. We note that funds are being budgeted for the preparations of this critical mammoth task. The Census 2021 budget has been estimated at 3.3 billion rand. If this cannot be provided, and this is what I want to highlight, Minister, given what you said, the department will have to revert to costly old mode collections of statistics. This will certainly impact on the timelines regarding the release of the numbers and the cost. It is estimated that if the department was forced to revert to the old mode collection, it would cost the country R1 billion to get the task done. That would be double the amount estimated if we go digital as it has been proposed. For this reason, the Portfolio Committee has recommended that the National Treasury, working with the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation on the budget prioritization framework, that is the mandate paper, should ensure that Stats SA is provided with adequate funds to conduct this important Census 2021. Now, here's a little example, Minister, you might like this one. If any reason were needed to show that Stats SA deserves special attention with regard to funding, the results of MPET 2016, that is the management performance tool, and the latest available statistics show that this is the case. And what we did in the DA, we just took 3 senior departments here and made a comparison. The presidency, DPME.
Time has expired.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I did say time. And then the second thing I said was time expired. We'll then proceed to Honorable Dlamini Tubazana.
Honorable House Chair, Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Minister, Honorable distinguished guests, family from the State SA South Africa, Sanbonani Nganbingelela. Honorable House Chair, I want to go back to exactly what my colleagues have said regarding the statistics as a bedrock of the nation. and ANC supported this theme. This is the theme that was brought up by the State SA itself. And this is due to the fact that effective and efficient planning, radical transformation, and economic outlook can be monitored as scheduled using the data that is being supplied by the State SA. South Africa Survey 2013 on economy shows that the real GDP, which is the growth, the gross domestic product, at the market prices recorded 2.5%. Agricultural sector was sitting on 2.3% of the GDP, while manufacturing was sitting at 12.4% of the GDP, and the mining was sitting on the negative of 4%. Honorable members and the chair, this microeconomic information chairperson plays a key role in planning and strategy during the debates on the 5th National Policy Conference of the ANC in Nazareth. Honorable Chair, it is for this reason that the ANC took a strong decision towards the radical socio-economic transformation and the agent to redress land distribution back to the indigenous people of the country so as to improve their lives, improve poverty through agricultural cooperatives. And secondly, Honorable Chair, these sectors, they add value to our gross domestic product growth. Honorable Chairperson, still at the same conference of the ANC, the 5th National Policy Conference of the ANC, this conference identified questions, amongst others. Let me share with the honorable members. ANC, yeah, you love to hear that one. What role does the land and agricultural reform have in the process of economic transformation? What principles should guide ANC policy in this regard? What respective roles should the states and the private sector play in the process of the radical socio-economic transformation? Honorable Chair, every individual sitting in this house, I'm sure they realize that when the ANC has to sit and make policies and principles, they always seek scientific approach towards developing those policies, because ANC lives and ANC leads. So as we lead the society, confidence, people's contracts are always acknowledged and respected by the African National Congress, so as to ensure that the implementation of these policies and the principles are based on the measurable, achievable instrument. If there are any bottlenecks during the implementation phase, indeed, ANC do not hesitate to acknowledge its weaknesses and identify an alternative strategy. Honorable House Chair, SONA 2018 tabled by His Excellency the President Ramaphosa, within it he said, I quote, Working Group for the Youth. Honorable Chair, the initiative proposed by the President has to have a plan based on facts, and thus request that State SA to provide assistance to the NYDA on how to approach the proposed initiative. Honorable Chairperson, ANC is aware that inequality is still a serious problem in our society, especially for the indigenous people. To ownership and control of production, sharing of wealthy, and entrepreneurship opportunities, in particular by the private sector, where we therefore, as ANC, invite the private sector to contribute positively towards closing the gap so as to eliminate this frequent industrial action that we witness. Honorable Chairperson, ANC acknowledged the development of the Department of Small Businesses by the former President, His Excellency President Zuma. We hope that this department will pay more attention to the previously disadvantaged individual to ensure that their dreams and hope towards becoming young business people does not diminish by lack of financial support and skills empowerment. Honorable members and Minister, allow me to thank the Minister, the State SA led by Ubaba Umaluleka, on the clear and succinct annual performance plan for 2018-2019. The plan has 13 statistical themes. These themes were developed by your department. They are so clear, they're so well aligned with the NDP. I want to give just a few examples because I know that the chair is not going to tell me that the minute is left, it's just going to say time. An efficient, competitive, and responsive economic infrastructure network. This is now the medium-term strategic framework outcome that was tabled by the State SA. And then they said, how are they going to then achieve that? How are they going to align this with the NDP target? They said, no, we need to make sure we assist our department by giving them the data that is going to assist across the gross domestic product growth of 5% as being tabled by the NDP. The other one, Honorable Chairperson, through you, Minister, your department did well. They said, look, the NDP talk about the inflation rate. That should be at least be between the 3% and the 6%. So us, we are saying the outcome there should be the decent employment through inclusive economic growth. That to us as the ANC, we are saying indeed, Status Day South Africa, as they plan and compile their strategy, they take recognition of the policies of the ANC since the government is led by the ANC. Honorable members, State SA's planning strategy framework indeed is the one that we can respect as the ANC. Having said that, Honorable Chairperson, yes, we have noticed that there are vacancies within the State SA. However, ANC is aware that those vacancies are for personnel that are being scarce resources within our country. The methodologist, the modeling. And because of how much you pay them, we tend to have the brain drainage. They go to better places to be paid. So we are requesting that as the ANC, that the minister could actually develop a model to develop a pool for these people and the retention strategy towards it, because if you don't do that, then we're going to keep on complaining and saying this. There's another issue that is being raised there, Minister, of the depletion of the budget. As the ANC, we are also concerned about that, but we understand it differently from the other political parties. We understand as the ANC that, budget doesn't come from the trees or from the fruits. Budget, it comes from the microeconomic factors that needs to take place within the country. Firstly, there should be employment. From employment, there's savings. From savings, there's consumption. And from consumption, then the SARS is able to do the collection. So when you do the collection, when SARS has done the proper collection, then you are able. Oh, then.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. And based on that, then the SARS will be able to collect enough revenue and will be able to appropriate enough money to the departments. So let us not look at this like it is the ANC-led government that decided to deplete the money. No, it's the microeconomy, people, when people, they've got knowledge deficit, they must go to school and learn economy. They must understand finance. They must understand the things that makes the depletion of the budget. Unless you understand them in a scientific way, then you'll point fingers for apparently no reason. Understand the macroeconomic factors that it is those we have to improve. We need to bring the private sector we have to bring especially you on the other side that you are saying serious because you know what we have done right now. You see, we need to bring everybody and say, look, this is our country. We've got the passion, the little that we have got, let us try and provide. Nobody has denied the corruption. Nobody has denied, ANC has never denied the corruption. ANC has been talking about the corruption. ANC is doing something about the corruption. The only thing I'm talking about is the depletion of the budget. So let us be focused. Let us be focused. Otherwise, Honorable Chairperson, Congolese, uthi cha impela uyayisupport le budget. Ngiyabonga sihlalo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Thank you very much to all of you and the members who have taken part in the debate. Honorable Chair of the committee, we have noted the report. So we will pay attention to the issues that you have raised. And also to Honorable Kasim, most of what you said is true and we agree with. Where we don't agree is when you say the DA would have done different spatial planning. I just want to point out that here in Cape Town is the most glaring place of apartheid spatial planning, and that's where the DA runs. So I think before you say you do things differently, just do them. Just do them so that we can say, yes, we can see it, it's happening. But when Langa, Nyanga, Cape Flats, Khayelitsha, Atlantis, you compare it with Bishop's Court, with this, with the Camps Bay, then you can see that what we are saying is just grandstanding. You are not practicing it here where you have. But otherwise, the rest, I agree with you. And then to Honorable Ndlwangwini of the EFF, yes, I also agree with you that data is very important for all the reasons you mentioned. And I can't say you are wrong. So I agree. And I'm happy that you are supporting the budget. I didn't quite hear the DA, but I think they support it. And then the IFP, again, I agree. And I take note of your emphasis that the social statistics in the rural and poor areas is important. And I'm sure the SG is also taking note of that, amongst other things. And of course, Ubab Ntombela, again, you have raised very important issues that we agree with. You can't lift people out of poverty if you don't know where they are, how many they are, what's causing their poverty. So we agree. And whilst we are still discussing with Treasury, we are also making sure that there is comprehensive reprioritization process so that the core statistics, basic statistics, is not undermined. We also want to say that on the census 2021, I'll just give you how we're planning it. We have already started planning. This year, we're focusing on developing and testing the methodology tools, as well as consulting with the stakeholders, national stakeholders. And then in 2019, 2020, we'll maintain the focus on demarcating the whole country and also further testing of the innovative solutions that we are bringing. So we'll keep you informed of the plans as we in the run-up to the census. And I agree that we should be concerned about the days of sick leave, because ideally it would be nice to have a workforce that doesn't fall sick. But I also want to assure you that Stats SAA is still below the national average of sick leave. So we're concerned because we should all be healthy, but we're still below the average. So I think that's all really I want to say, and to thank you again for ensuring that my re-entry into these debates is very smooth, soft landing. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Minister. Members are reminded that the debate on justice and constitutional development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the National Assembly chamber, and the debate on social development budget vote will take place at 16:15 in the old Assembly chamber. That, fellow members, honorable members, concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary session, therefore, will now rise. Thank you very much.